Hello and welcome to Eastbourne Council Watch. Councils have been a bit like buses recently, none for ages, then two in a week. Both meetings had the Eastbourne local plan on the agenda. This is the plan for how Eastbourne will function over the next 15 years, including housing, employment, infrastructure, transport, all underpinned by climate mitigation, of course. The first video is the cross-party scrutiny committee, which, scrutinises the plan and then sends it on to the Lib Dem cabinet for approval. The chair of the scrutiny committee is very open-minded. He takes on board what speakers have to say and asks relevant questions of the council employees who are presenting the plan. Sadly, my old friend Jim Murray, cabinet member for all things green, Eastbourne's answer to Ed Miliband, though perhaps not quite so barking mad, was missing from the cabinet meeting. But several other councillors took it upon themselves to stress that nothing in the local plan was sure to happen, and presumably this was for my benefit. Thank you.
Well, I know it's often just me sitting here, but I speak to a lot of people and I'm here to reflect their views as well as mine. 3 areas in the local plan. House building. Southern and southeast water will be consulted to ensure new developments don't overwhelm the sewage system. Only last week I became ill after a sea swim, and many people have recently had no water in their taps. These companies can't cope with the present number of homes. The environment, badly affected by the mania for solar panel and wind turbine installation. I see nothing green about net zero policies of trashing nature with so-called green energy infrastructure, which decimates land through mining for rare earths and ruins the farmland on which it's then installed. From cradle to grave, the panels and silicon wafers are toxic to the environment, the energy used to produce the silicon astronomical. Solar panels can't be recycled and should be disposed of in special hazardous waste landfills. Hardly green, are they? Then there's modal shift, war on cars. It's happening throughout the country and many oppose it, citing the lack of democratic and technical debate, economic harms, loss of freedoms, the questionable character of much of the scientific and technical evidence, and the nature of the organisations and processes involved. Air pollution policies, APPs, driven by a small number of apparently philanthropic foundations with huge budgets and a political agenda are part of this. Tradesmen and others dependent on private transport who have found themselves on the receiving end of APPs report significant loss of income. Given the very strong evidence demonstrating the relationship between income and health, this should be taken into account. Some of you probably think you're saving the planet with these policies, so let me tell you about the Club of Rome, important here. It's a powerful group which has included people such as Tony Blair, Bill Gates and David Rockefeller. Some quotes from members. Isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring it about? In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine and the like would fit the bill. Rockefeller said that he was seen as part of a secret cabal, working against the best interests of the US and conspiring to build a one-world government. His answer, if that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I'm proud of it. This may appear unconnected to our local plan, but it's only the tip of the iceberg which informs the thinking of the Church of Climate followers like Ed Miliband. This and much more comes under UN Agenda 2050, where we will have no cars, no flying, no gas appliances or wood-burning stoves. It's all in plain sight if only you care to look. Not just a little local plan, but a global one. Thank you. Good evening. My address to scrutiny on Monday was responded to fairly by the chair, but many of the answers followed the same tired, settled science argument. The statement from a councillor that we all know about climate change was breathtaking in its complacency and lack of understanding, because it's patently obvious that most of you don't. What you know is what's parroted by government, scientists desperate to hang on to their funding, and people who simply repeat a narrative without thinking. I may not be a scientist, but I have a highly qualified one in my immediate family, and I've learnt the importance of checking the veracity, or otherwise, of the whoppers that come out of government. Modal shift. What is it? For the public, it's a gobbledygook phrase that few understand and fewer bother to look up. You could say war on cars, but that would frighten the horses, wouldn't it? I've spoken about this before, and yet only 1 or 2 councillors ever give any indication that they've listened. Hands up those who read the report on air quality that I mentioned last year, which shows strong evidence that poor income is far more relevant to health than today's air quality. The update of that report is titled Clean Air, Dirty Money, Filthy Politics. Modal shift is happening throughout the country, and opposers cite the lack of democratic and technical debate, loss of freedoms, the questionable character of much of the scientific evidence, and the nature of the organisations and processes involved. Air pollution policies, APPs, driven by a small number of foundations with huge budgets and a political agenda, are part of this. People in places restricted by APPs report that visiting relatives and taking part in family and community life, commuting to work, travelling to hospital appointments, running small businesses and carrying out trades are made impossibly inconvenient through congestion caused by road closures and by fines and charges. This is known as nudging. They report significant loss of income, which I mentioned earlier. Hopefully you were listening. Air pollution claims are not put into economic and social perspective. Eastbourne may not be there yet, but Jim Murray is a fan of Oxford's system, so maybe soon. Architect Robin Minotti says, "It was a well-known secret in my days as an architecture and urbanism lecturer that the entire urban redesign approach, cycle lanes, pedestrian zones, 20 mph limits, etc., were done to increase congestion, to dissuade people from travelling in cars." And finally, quoting from the report, the lack of public debate and the exclusion of critical expert opinion from air pollution and traffic management policy making is undemocratic and echoes the abuse of power and the now considered draconian policies imposed on the public during the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Stallard.